You may ask yourself, at what point does it make sense to hire a client success manager? And where do you find that person? And what do you need to prepare for that person? And what's their responsibilities? Everything broken down in this video here. So if you run a coaching business, you might ask yourself that question, right? When is it the right time to hire someone that helps me with the fulfillment side of the company, who helps me with helping people get results? Because at one point you can't do everything yourself, right? And I would say that's connected to budget or like to revenue. So if you're doing above 50K a month, that's where I would start with finding a part-time CSM. And then when you're hitting 100K months, that's where I would have one CSM in your offer. And then as you scale, if you go to 300K months, 400K, you have a second one. And then maybe if you do like 800K to $1 million, you have a third one. And I know that's very little people for a lot of clients, but it comes down to the systems that you're able to handle this with that little people. But that's kind of how I structure it. So with the biggest offers that I'm on, we're hitting $1 million months, and we have 3 CSMs on that role or on that offer. But with other offers, we have just one CSM for an offer that does more like 100K a month, if that makes sense. So now let's break it down though. If you have, or before we go there, does it even make sense to hire CSMs versus building a fully automated system? Yes, if you do the numbers and you calculate that if I hire one CSM, as an example, it costs me 3 to 5K. That CSM will increase client success by a lot, and then I can upsell and resell more people, or I get my time back. You can literally calculate your cost per hour. Is it worth it based on that? If yes, it's a no-brainer hire, you should hire it. If no, you can also fully automate the client success. But keep in mind that automations will always underperform versus hiring physical staff, because like human potential is still much higher than AI or any automation. Like fitness coach versus fitness app, who has better results? Of course the coach, right? He has more impact. So yeah, keep that in mind. But anyways, you can build both. You just need to think about what makes more sense based on numbers, because everyone want to build automations, but it's not always. I think again, it always underperforms. So yeah. Anyways, there's another video on that topic. Let's talk about how or where you find that person. So again, when does it make sense? We covered where do you find that person. So you find that person on Upwork. That's where I find all of my CSMs. Now, to be very honest, there is a very specific way of how I look for people, because there's a lot of BS people on Upwork. I wouldn't say BS, but like they have very little experience, and you don't want to have a person that has zero experience in your client success, because that can dramatically impact how many people actually get results. And if they have no idea, well, your offer is now getting no results anymore for clients, and that sucks, right? So you want to avoid that. So first thing, your post has to be great. So you're looking for CSM, Client Success Manager. That's the title, CSM Client Success Manager, full-time role, coaching space. You put there criteria. You have been working as a Client Success Manager specifically, ideally in the coaching space or a very similar space, for at least, I would say, 1 to 3 years. That's the minimum default. Then another thing here for hires generally, and that might sound rude or I don't know, but like I only hire people that are below 35, okay, in this kind of roles. Ideally below 30, but I would say you don't want to have a person that's 20, because they talk to customers, and if you focus on people that are, let's say, people that want to buy land or something or whatever, the problem is that your audience or like your client success manager is way too young for the clients that you have, and then clients don't take them serious. So you definitely want to have a person above 25 at least, I would say. So in that age bracket, because why do I not hire people that are older than that? They're not that technical advanced, or how do I say it? They're slow. It sounds so bad, but they're slow with tech. They're slow with tech. I don't want to have a person where I need to explain how to open Slack or how to navigate it within Monday. It's not all of them, obviously, but most of them are just slow. And like a CSM has to be fast, because they are touching a lot of different customers, and it's the only way how you can keep up. I usually also hire women as CSMs. That's another thing. Why? Because they have more empathy. they are better in reading emotions with people. And let's be honest, if there's a problem, right? Let's say, yeah, there's a client that has some sort of challenges, they would prefer to talk to a woman that is good looking, ideally, right? And also, like, again, it's not about just looks, but like, how do I say it? Friendly looking, okay? It's a friendly person. Because again, if you have a problem, you want to talk to a friendly person, not a guy that maybe looks like he's gonna rip your head off, right? That's not gonna be helpful if you have a problem and you look for a solution, if that makes sense, right? So therefore, I hire women, and also women, they are very good in multitasking on different things, because that's kind of like the CSM role. And yeah, like chatting back and forth really fast usually, and that's the role that you have there, right? And that's why I prefer women in all of those CSM roles. And I think I never hired a guy as a CSM before, but yeah, maybe I will do once, but they have to be very specifically qualified with those things, right? Again, empathy and stuff like that has to be very high. I saw CSMs before, males, that I would say took things personal or were very aggressive towards clients, and then that pushed back bad to clients, and then yeah, like we had to let them go. In one of the offers that I work with, we had to let the CSM go. Anyways, yeah, like that's how you look for that person. So those kind of criterias. Then additionally, again, they have to understand tech, right? Like they have to understand Slack, Monday, or whatever systems you use. And yeah, I would say those are like the key things. And what I always look at is, again, friendly face. If they jump on a call with you, they look stressed out, they look like they're in a bad situation with their life, that impacts your company as well, right? They're part of the team. I look, who else do we have in the team? How does this person fit into the circle? And I want to have A players. I want to have people that are hardworking. And you can tell by just looking at a person's face if they are half asleep when talking to you, if they're talking fast, clear, specific, and that's it. Then let's talk about interview process. So fastest way to find a CSM is you make that post, you look through people. Ideally, you mention in the post as well, send me a 30-second video why we should hire you. That saves you so much time. Can you just watch the video quickly and then see, based on the video that they send, if it's a good fit or not? Because again, you can hear very easily based on how they talk, how they look on camera, how they communicate, if it's a good fit or not. And also they say there, oh yeah, I worked in this space, but you can tell they have no idea, or they actually do. And so you're very fast. So that's one way. And then filter everyone, and then maybe you take 2 or 3 interviews, maybe 5 interviews for 15 minutes. It's a very short call. You just gotta ask a bunch of questions like, when could you start work for us? Can you start work in the right time zone? Because some people might be in different time zones. And by the way, I usually hire American, Canadians, or sometimes Europeans, but no one outside of those countries. You don't want to have someone from the Philippines or something for this role specifically. They're good in like appointment setting or stuff, but not in that specific role. I would not have a person from another country. Also need to speak very, very good English, obviously, right? And yeah, that's it. And then again, you would have 15-minute calls. You ask them about if they can start to work immediately, blah, 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 all of these basic questions. And then also some personal questions like, hey, what do you do besides working? Do you have a family right now? Where do you actually live? And just personal questions that you can kind of like understand what's this person's life look like. Because that will tell you if that person is going to be very busy with everything, or if they have time to focus on this position and commit to that full time. And yeah, another very good question I usually ask is, what was your last role? And they talk about that, right? The main role that may be connected to yours. And then why did you left that position? What happened? That tells you very, very fast if they're bullshitting you and you kind of sense then, man, like something happened there, that's not good. Or if they're honest, they're like, hey, look, I actually looked for something else. I didn't like to work there, blah, blah, blah. If they're honest, honesty is what I would prefer beyond having the perfect answer, if that makes sense. Because again, we all had situations before where we had to leave something, or yeah. So just look for honesty, and a clear answer in my eyes. And obviously, again, look for red flags in this kind of things. 15-minute call, you did that. Out of that, you get maybe like 1 or 2 people. With those, gonna do a second call, another 15 minutes, because you don't want to waste too much time to hire someone. But you definitely want to ask the right questions. And in the second interview, what I would do is I would ask them specific situations in their role. For example, customer is not happy, reaches out to you, hey, I hate this program, this is bullshit. What would you do? How would you react to that? You don't give anything else, you just say, and then the person is like, oh, wait, I need to know, blah, blah. I don't say anything else, figure it out. And that tells you exactly how the person actually does things. So if you have a person that is very hesitant and that says, I can't answer this because there's blah, blah, they're excusers. I don't want to hire that person. If the person tries to come up with something, they are solution oriented. They try to at least figure it out, right? That's the person I'm looking for, right? Those are very, very, very helpful things to ask. And then just gives us some situations. This is just one example. There's a lot of different examples I can make here, but I don't want to make this video too long. But those are things that you can use to figure out what person would be the right fit. Then, additionally to that, yeah, like just make sure everything is working fine. Talk about money. Let's talk about that too. I usually hire CSMs on a very low rate actually. Sometimes for 2.5K a month full time. And I know that's basically very little money for that role. And why I do this is because if they're doing a good job, I give them a raise and I push them to 3K or 3.5K within their first month or first couple of months. Now, what that does is they understand that they get rewarded if they do a good job and they keep doing a good job for you. And also they have to prove themselves, because if you get hired for 5K right away, as an example, and the company doesn't even like, they don't even look how you perform, then obviously your performance is average. But if you get not too much, just enough that you feel like, okay, it's worth starting, but you actually put in the work, you're a hard worker, you get rewarded, you understand that you keep getting rewarded if you do put in the work, and it's worth it to put in the work, right? It's a system that I use with all of the roles that I hire. And then again, you can push that up literally to 5K over time if the person becomes a head CSM, for example, and the offer scales, obviously, right? You're doing it at one point, let's say 500K months. We even have a CSM that is on 8K a month. That's the highest. That's a head CSM. So yeah, like give them growth, room to grow if they're doing an amazing job. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you pay staff well? But again, I prefer to pay them well once they perform, if that makes sense, okay? Because again, yeah, like if they're doing barely anything, I think it would be unfair to you if you just pay them a high salary. So that's salary. Let's talk about the next thing. What do you need to prepare? There's a lot of points here, but it's very important that you do it right, because otherwise you just hire someone and it'll not work. I see this in so many offers. I saw offers doing so much cash, like we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, and they're way overstaffed. They have absolute no plan, and it's a huge ghetto in a company. That's what you want to avoid. You just have people there for no reason. They don't even know what they're doing. So first thing you need to do is define what the person needs to focus on. That is specific duties. Usually client success manager focus on personal conversations with people, like one-on-one chats or whatever you do, right? That is chatting back and forth with people. Then they do client success management, which means they have some sort of client board where they would check in with people based on their situation and try to help them so they can grow within their situation, get further, basically. It's an accountability system or a client success system. That's like their main thing. And then besides that, some small tasks like handling refunds, if there are refunds or stuff like that, and that has to be very clearly defined. Everything needs to have a SOP. Ideally, you have a short Loom video training on all of those things, and when they join, they have kind of like I call it worksheet with all of those duties listed and the SOPs listed. And then it's so simple for them to also start the role. They get a briefing with all of the Looms, they have all SOPs ready, and then guess what? Within a week, they're fully dialed in. I don't need to help them for 2 months and then I still think like that person is new or whatever. I can onboard them really fast. Within a week, they're fully dialed in, they're doing everything, and they're part of the team, okay? Then Another thing here with that is when you hire them, you give them all the trainings, you let them get used to things, push them a little bit, throw them in the cold water after that, and let them take care of things, and then control them regularly early, and then maybe do a couple of calls with them beyond the training systems that you gave them. But that's probably the fastest way, because a lot of people, they just do everything in calls, which is not needed, or either not, or this or nothing, and nothing is also bad, because then the person does whatever, and then guess what, again, you have a huge team that doesn't focus on the right things. So that's all that you need to do. And then do a contract. I usually do a freelance contract, so they're not fully hired in the company technically, even though they're fully hired, but with a freelance contract, so they need to pay their insurance and stuff like that, because we're in an online coaching space. We're not, I don't want to deal with that. So then, additionally to that, again, make sure you build a solid team and you have team calls. Sometimes you actually do something fun in the beginning, talking about a different win of the week and stuff like that. And then after, talk about the duties and everything. And I have a very organized meeting. I always have a meeting agenda, what we're talking about, because I don't want to waste time. Because I am on many different offers. If I would spend, let's say, an hour with every offer that I'm on, I'm spending all of my time on doing meetings, and it's not needed. You basically check in once a week with them, once everything is working, maybe like bi-weekly, for a 30-minute call to 45-minute call in big teams, 30-minute call in smaller teams, and that's enough. That's all you need. And then just have a meeting agenda, go over different points, and set action steps of things people need to get done. And then you're very efficient running your offer, and your client success will go up for sure, right? So that's basically everything. So if you like this video, leave me a comment. Let me know in the comments if you have other questions or whatever about CSM hires. And it's basically a similar structure that you use for other hires. But let me know. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, or let me know what you would be interested in hearing about in the online coaching space. Again, I mainly focus on fulfillment specifically, right? I run or operate a lot of different offers for my clients as a fractional COO/ops partner. And let me know. Thanks for watching the video, and see you in the next one.